Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life. So, welcome everyone to our nice conversation that we will have today in English with one of our students, Fay Fester. Thank you for making time, Fay. It's wonderful that after a long day of learning and after a long day of actually being together in school, you still make time to stay with us. So what we thought, it's very important for you guys and you families to understand a little bit more about School Beyond Limitations through the eyes of a student. And Faye is just the right example for that, because Faye has been joining School Beyond Limitations at the very beginning. She's been there already when we started our pilot phase. And now I would like Faye's, maybe Faye, you talk a little bit about yourself first. So maybe you would like to introduce yourself a little bit, where you're coming from and so forth. Thank you, Faye.
Yeah. I'm very honored to be here and basically like representing the students. I'm 16 years old. I'm originally from Germany, and about 1.5 years ago we moved to Cyprus, and that's initially when I started being a part of School Beyond Limitations. And a lot of things have changed for me personally through the school. And yeah, I'm very happy to be part of it. And sharing my experience here.
Thank you, Faye. And this is a great introduction to the next question. A lot of things have changed through the school. So would you like to start? What are those things that have changed so much for you?
I mean, the way I'm learning is very different now. Because, I think what we learn is that learning takes place everywhere. If we're in lesson and outside, you can learn anything anywhere. And that is like a realization I made like in the first weeks of my school experience. And I've become much more independent, of course. I've been quite independent before, but I've really learned how to schedule my own learning, how to organize what I'm doing. And that's really, I think, a skill that's so important in life and that I will take with me further, and also after I graduated and all that. So I think one of the best things about School Beyond Limitations is that we really learn things that are so important for life in general and not only for the school time.
Wow, can you make maybe an example? I'm just thinking also of today, for instance, when you shared something with all the others about your reading list, and just give more examples. You have so many, you are so rich of examples, so please.
Yeah, so I really have like a lot of original ideas, and it's very great that I have this space to share it with the others. For example, today I made a reading list of, I think, 6 or 7 books that I will read during quarantine, because right now we can't really go outside and like meet up with friends. So I think that's like a great time to do some reading. And that was just something that like came into my mind today during lessons. So I did it during a lesson and then shared it with the class. And that's initially like, one example of like, also learning and coming up with our own ideas.
That sounds wonderful. How much space do you have for your own ideas? What would you say?
Well, it's a lot. It's basically, very free initially. And I think most of the space is for our own ideas and for us to express ourselves, and the teachers are there to like guide us in the right directions. But also from like my fellow like classmates, I really also see them like taking initiative for themselves after some time and coming up with their own ideas. And that's really like so interesting because they're all coming from like a mainstream school context. And they have to get used to that. They have to get used to really having the space for their own ideas. And that's, as I said, very interesting to see.
Have you noticed, because you said before, you know, after a few weeks, I've learned that
Mm-hmm.
actually learning is taking place everywhere and anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And you have gone a little bit away from the notion of doing homework. Can
Oh
you
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about this aspect? Because you know you are also
Mm-hmm.
referred now to traditional school, right? Where in traditional settings where students come in and they think, oh, I have to do homework now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see this, and how did it develop over time for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, when we think of homework, it's really something, yeah, that we must do, that we have to finish in a certain time. And that's still a thing in most schools around the world. It's something that teachers give you for you to complete in your time at home. And that was really something that I didn't, that I would say I struggled with in normal schools because we have 8-hour classes and then we go home and it's like 4 p.m. and we still have to finish all these homework for all types of different subjects. And here it's very different and we don't really call it homework. It's just like assignments and learning, and everything can be learning in that context. We can read a book and that's learning. We can go out and that's learning. And of course, there are those assignments for different subjects still. But I would say there's not really a force behind it. Like you have to do subjects and these and that exercises in that time. It's all, of course, that also ties in with independence because we can really say how much we want to do on a certain day. And that's really what, yeah, learning after the lessons is all about. I really wouldn't call it homework.
Mhm. So are you saying that it's actually the student sharing with the teacher, mentor, what they are going to do in the afternoon? It's not the mentor saying you have to do
Mm-hmm.
this, but rather you deciding how
Yeah.
you want to dedicate you and on what you want to dedicate your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
we always like at the finishing point of our lessons every day, um, we have this time to like make our own plan of what we want to do in the afternoon and evening. And the mentors and teachers, they're here to also help out with that. Like for students who don't really know what they still can do for help them out. But for me, for example, it's very independent. It's very free, and I can really like um, yeah, kind of like look at my own assignments and look what I can do in this specific day, and also what I'm feeling like doing. And I think that also has to do with responsibility because maybe on one day I'm not really in the mind space of doing physics or chemistry, but then I still think about it and maybe do a portion of it the next day, and maybe today I'm doing some other assignments that I feel like. So it's very much about that.
So you have the freedom to decide. I don't have to do it in that specific moment. I just do it
Mm-hmm.
in another moment when I'm getting into the flow with that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent. I wanted to ask you, you know, for people who don't have any experience about how a school day may be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's pretty clear to us, right, that we're
Yeah.
living this experience on a day-to-day basis, but it's not very clear to anybody else who doesn't know what this means. Would you be able to describe a little bit what a day looks like at
Mm-hmm.
School Beyond Limitations from the perspective of a student?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to do that. So I mean, it does depend in which country you live. For me, school starts at 10. In Germany, it's 9. And I actually really enjoy these like later hours to start the school day. And then in the morning, we always have some time for personal sharing. And then we do like mindfulness exercises and meditations, and then also some body exercises, which over time also many students can lead, which is also very fun. And after that, we do some other warm-ups that have to do maybe sometimes with math, English, words, all of that. And then every student has their designated time of about 1 to 1.5 or 2 hours to work on their own assignments or work together in projects. And for my part, I'm right now still working on my IGCSE exams, so I'm preparing for that right now. So for me, it's a lot about that, and I have my certain subjects, but that doesn't mean that I have to completely strictly stick to that and just learn what's on the like syllabus plan of the IGCSEs. I can also say that maybe today I'm more interested in researching a certain thing and writing an essay about that. And then the mentors always yeah, help out where help is needed, and we can like talk about our projects, and then we all get together again and then we share, which takes about half an hour, and everyone contributes a little bit to that, and we do also quizzes together that the students put together. And yeah, sharing time is really one of my favorite because it's so fun to see what everyone is doing, and it's very different because of course there are different levels in our classes and everyone has their own interest fields. And yeah, that is initially like a school day, and after that still the learning continues. So
Yes, exactly. That's great what you're saying. Faye, you're saying that there are so many different levels, right? There.
mhm,
Why are there so many different levels? Would you like to go into that aspect
mhm,
and how you perceive that as a student? Because you were just saying it is so much fun to share and also to
mhm.
reflect, but it's not all the same level. So can you give a little bit an insight? And I see Joelle is actually watching. Hi, Joelle. Good to see you. Yeah, would you give some insight with regards to that? So sharing is a great aspect, reflection is a great aspect,
Mhm.
but we have completely different levels. On which basis are you talking about these levels? Because that's
Mhm.
also important to understand.
Yeah, well, we have students of very different ages in our class. And I mean, even people who are the same age are not specifically on the same levels. And that's also very normal, of course. And also in conventional schools, that is, and I think our context is so special because everyone has really the space to express themselves um, on the level they are, and on the level of like English they have, and their interests, of course, also. So yeah, we have very different like ages from 11 to now like 16, which is me. And yeah, sharing time again. Everyone has their own projects, and also collaborations. So the different age groups and levels also, yeah, work together and collaborate, which I think is also one of the most interesting parts when they also share that.
And we also have a lot of experiences which we call flipped classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that and
Mm-hmm.
which how you experienced that, and whether you benefited or benefit
Mm-hmm.
from that?
Yeah, so flipped classroom was basically a concept or is a concept where students can prepare a lesson for the others and the teachers. So of course the teachers then also participate. And for the most part, it's also very free of what topic we choose. It has often to do with our interests, like the things we're passionate about in this moment. And for me, like teaching basically an entire class for like 15 to 20 minutes, it's a very interesting experience. And that has also to do with the different levels, because for me, I can then also try to work with those levels. And for maybe the students who still have like difficulty understanding some English, I can fix them some German. And also in the end, when there's, for example, a quiz with some questions, I always have some like very, yeah, like simple questions and some more tricky questions. And for me, that was really interesting because the first time I did that, I really just did it for my interests and my level. And that was when I struggled and got a little bit frustrated when no one seemed to understand that. And over time, I really incorporated everyone and tried to not like lower the bar, but also incorporate things that is easy for them to understand and interesting to them. But then also doing some trickier things for the older students and the mentors to understand.
And what did you learn through this experience?
Um, well, I mean, I did learn how important it is to share our feelings to the class, and also I would say also how different everyone is, and how different the perspective, sorry, the perspective of every single student is. And that is also a way in which um, we can get to know the students, or I can get to know the students. So I mean, in these experiences that have to do with sharing, it's really like all about getting to know the classmates. And for me also, teaching and explaining is always something I learn when I explain something. So these were just like some of the lessons. I mean, there are so many more things I learn from day to day in that context. So
So you're talking about the social aspect, you're talking about the
mm-hmm,
emotional aspect, you're talking about putting yourself into other people's shoes to understand, and adapting, adjusting the language
mm-hmm,
accordingly. Let's talk now a little bit more about the academics, you know, the academic
mm-hmm,
aspect, yeah, at School Beyond Limitations, because I wonder, because you described now, you know, how a lesson looks like, and
mm-hmm,
you didn't talk about we are doing 1 hour of mathematics, and then we do 1 hour of chemistry, and half an hour of physics, and then language and literature. So do you learn something at School Beyond Limitations? Do you have do you have the understanding that you do actually, academically speaking, learn
mm-hmm,
something? And how do you learn? Because I mean, I know how it works, right? Because we are living it on a daily basis. But what
mm-hmm,
you say to a person outside, and I don't want to say it because I see it, of course, but I would like you to say that, how you perceive it. Do you have really this understanding that you learn a lot, academically speaking, as well, and you get an understanding of the different, let's say, areas, the different subjects, or, you know, you understand what I mean?
mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm learning a lot, and I think when we compare that, um, I have really learned much more than in conventional schools, which I really did struggle with a lot. That's initially why I explored School Beyond Limitations, and why I immediately liked it, because for me, when I did struggle with a subject, for example, math is one of the only subject that wasn't very like easy to me. Um, I kind of felt left behind in other classes because I had the feeling that everyone was faster than me. Um, but with the support of the teachers, and this, yeah, individual support, that's really how many like blockages in my mind got solved, because I thought I don't really have to look at it in the class context like everyone's faster than me, everyone's better than me. I have to look at myself and see how I understand this problem or this exercise, and how can I initially memorize how to solve it. And that's really for every single subject. I mean, there is a type of structure that, of course, I also have a say in, so I can decide when I want to learn it, what I want to learn, and how to divide that basically into my time. And that's really like for me with preparation for the exams. I do work with like the syllabus and the books, but I think also in the collaboration with the teachers, we've really like divided it into like pieces, and like really easy because we have this like one mentoring hour every week, where we talk a lot about things like that, and the subjects. And I think um, for me, there's so much learning taking place in every subject, but not only for the subjects, but also for me personally. And I learned a lot about myself initially also. So how my mind works, how I learn, how humans learn, how different tactics are. Um, so that's really like an initial part. Working, of course, on different subjects that are needed and important, but also working on ourselves.
But you're still aware of the different subjects,
Oh
although,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, if I were now to go into detail what you are actually doing, you know, you have been writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
You are now on your third one. Is it your third one that you're writing now? Um,
Um, yeah, more or less, you could call it that. But I'm getting more into poetry now,
yeah.
so.
You've
Mhm.
started to work on poetry. You have started to actually also getting interested in trading. You
Mhm.
know, you've started to do so many different
Yeah.
things. Would you say
Politics, for example, also.
politics?
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah, tell us a little bit about this because this is so fascinating. Yeah,
What exactly?
maybe about politics. You know,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and history
Um.
because you always link
Mhm.
it with history and also with, you know, geography and lots of other things. So
Mhm. Yeah, so exploring my interests, I would say. It's really something, I mean, nowadays we learn a lot about like from the internet. So if a subject, for example, like politics or a specific part of history is interesting to me, um, I just tell my mentor about it and I say I want to work on that. I would maybe want to write an essay, a report, slideshow, anything about that, and they will definitely support that. And yeah, that's really like the case, and that's really what helped me so much with developing these interests, because they're really something that came to me just like a few months ago or a few weeks ago. And this opportunity that you can always like explore when you feel like you're interested in something, that's really what helped me immensely with developing these interests, because like a few months ago I would have never been invested in something like politics. It's just something that randomly came to me, and in this moment I said, you know what, I want to explore that, and that's what I did, and that's how I developed that. And I think also, especially for younger students, that's so important to giving them this space.
exactly, and I think what you may want to also just mention here is your interest in finding out what is the right information, or what
Oh
is
yeah.
true, real and fake information. Would you
Mm-hmm.
also like to dip a little bit into this field, because
Sure.
you've been so enthusiastic about it, and you have researched so well on it, that you also were able to pass that on to younger students who are only 11 or 12 years old, right?
Hmm.
So please give us a little bit of an insight about that.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's one of my recent projects of how, yeah, humans deal with like fake news, especially over the internet, where you can't really trust everything you see, and where you kind of have to be like a little bit like conscious of what you take in. And that's, yeah, something I'm doing right now, some research I'm doing. I've also kind of gone into the notion of what exactly is fake news and why are people producing it. So maybe it could be because they're advertising something, or they want you to like believe in something. So that's really yeah, what I've been researching the last days, and also passing it on to younger students, because for them the internet can be a very critical and maybe dangerous space, because especially for young minds, they don't really have this superstition of this information could be fake. And that was why it was so important for me, and why I just made like a document with some questions, and we kind of went into more or less a debate about it, and talking about strategies of how you can spot whether something is maybe not trustworthy. So yeah, that's one of my recent projects.
So this brings us a little bit back to what you were saying at the beginning, that we are actually in School Beyond Limitations, there's actually a lot of space to talk about things that are relevant for us in that specific
Mm-hmm.
moment, in the times we are living in.
Yes.
You also mentioned, Faye, the importance of the mentor sessions in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell, the people who will be listening to this and watching this later, maybe, what the mentor session is all about, and why you find it so valuable?
Mm-hmm. So the mentor session is basically really just 1 hour that the student has with the mentor one-on-one. And it's really just a space for everything that is important to the mentor and the student. So it's really something where, for example, I can come forward and say what's on my mind right now. Whether maybe I have some struggles I'm going through right now, or we're talking about academia, like preparing for exams or preparing for an essay, or we're going through some things during the lesson that maybe we didn't have the time to it. So it's basically really just a space where we can really catch up, and it's very valuable to me, because it's really a space where I can also just have a good conversation with the mentor. I mean, that's also often what Martina and I are having. Like, we're just talking about recent developments, recent things, and every session is different, and what we're talking about is always very different. And yeah, it's very valuable.
Thank you, Faye. And let's slowly but surely come to a
Hmm.
conclusion. It's so interesting to listen to you. I wouldn't want to stop, right? I'm aware that you are 1 hour ahead of us, and
Oh yeah.
and you still want to read so much, and you still want to paint so much, and do so many different things. But I would like you to maybe tell people out there, what is, in your view, uh, because you wrote an essay recently about the differences between traditional school and School Beyond Limitations, and in that essay you actually mentioned that you would like so many people to be aware what's possible in a school,
Hmm.
like School Beyond Limitations. So what would you like to tell students who may be somehow interested in something like that, or families who may be interested from your perspective? What would you like to tell them so that they say, okay, I think this is something I would like to do?
I think one of the things that it's very important to like try not to be too intimidated, because it is very new, and you have to kind of get used to that completely new structure. And also for parents, for example, if your child doesn't speak English perfectly, that's in a lot of the cases for students in my class, for example, not to worry about that, because it's so crazy how people can learn. For example, my sister, she's almost fluent in English now, and she started 1.5 years ago with just the bare minimum. So for like requirements like that, it's really like I would say to just like explore and find the informations and maybe take part in lesson and see whether it's something that is suitable for you. And yeah, that's really all I would say. I have this friend, her name is Maya, who I recently took with me in the lesson, and she was so surprised because this context is so different from like her school. And she said to me,
she's attending to a private school, right? She's attending a private international school.
And she was very interested in joining an online school, and I said like just join me for one school day. And at the end she said to me that she was so interested because she saw how much fun I had while learning, and she really wanted a positive school experience without stress and without pressure. And yeah, that's really what I would like to tell you, that it's definitely worth exploring.
Excellent. That's the best conclusion you could ever say. So what we can say very quickly, students seem to learn something at School Beyond Limitations. They're happy. They are open for so many new things. They learn about their own personal development as much as about academics. And so please join us for, look at our website for more and further information. And if you feel this is the right context for you, come and book a conversation with us, and then we will find out whether your child, whether your daughter, your son will be able to join us or not. Yeah. And I would like to say thank you to Fay. Fay, you just stay here with me a little bit, just say goodbye to our audience. And I would like to really thank you for the insights that you have given us, because I think it's a completely different pair of shoes when you hear what a student brings to the table. So thank you very much, Faye. And thank you for watching. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can indeed bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.